In 2015, the Department for Education said that too many children in England do not read or write well enough by the time they leave primary school. The most effective way to teach a child to read is a robust programme of systematic synthetic phonics. This is especially the case for younger pupils and for those struggling with reading. So the aim of this virtual workshop is to support parents to understand what phonics is being taught in school, but also share strategies that can also be used at home to support your children with their phonics. At Castle Academy, we recognise the fundamental importance and the positive impact of parental involvement on children's learning experiences and education. Many parents and carers wish to support their children along their journey. However, as most parents and carers were taught to read using a different strategy than the one used today, it can be difficult to know what to do for the best and can also be confusing for the children. Phonics teaches children how to recognise the sounds that each individual letter makes, identify the sounds that different combinations of letters makes, and also blend these sounds together to make a word. Children can then use this knowledge to decode new words that they see. This is the first important step in learning to read. When phonics is taught in a structured way, starting with the easiest sounds, progressing through to the most complex, it is the most effective way of teaching young children to read. It's particularly helpful for 5 to 7-year-olds and those who are struggling with their reading. In school, we follow the letters and sounds systematic synthetic approach to teaching phonics. We also use other phonics resources in conjunction. We use the Jolly Phonics Actions, we use a website called Phonics Play, and also the BBC Bite-Sized Phonics resources too. The Letters and Sounds programme is broken down into 6 phases of teaching. Phase 1 is usually taught in nursery, FS1. Due to COVID-19, we recognise that many children will have missed out on aspects of their Phase 1 phonics teaching, and we started the year by revisiting Phase 1 activities such as focusing on initial sounds, alliteration and rhyme. All of Phase 1 teaching are speaking and listening activities. Once the children were more secure with Phase 1 teaching, we have now begun Phase 2 and aim to cover this within the autumn term leading up to Christmas. We focus on Phase 2 sounds and then introduce the children to different letters and sounds, which are also known as graphemes and phonemes. In Phase 2, grapheme-phoneme correspondence is taught. A phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in a word that can change its meaning. There are approximately 44 phonemes. A grapheme is a letter or group of letters that represent a sound. When teaching phonics in school or when supporting children with their phonics at home, it is important to remember what differs now from when most of us were taught to read ourselves. For example, the sequence in which letters are taught is now different. Letters are no longer introduced in alphabetical order, and instead, s, a, t, p, I, n are the first letters introduced, as these letters can be used to make the most simple words to practice reading and spelling with. It is also important to remember that the way we pronounce some sounds has also changed over time. You may remember being taught as t. Now it's a very sharp and snappy t. Click on the link below and the correct pronunciations can be heard for all the phonemes taught. Here you can see all the Phase 2 letters and sounds which are grouped and taught in 5 sets. To support children with their phonics, alongside the letters and sounds we introduce an action for each sound. You can help your child by practicing the actions at home, or if they are struggling to recall a grapheme from memory, prompt them by performing the action to them. When teaching children to read Phase 2 words, we use a strategy called Super Sweep. This process teaches the children to segment and blend sounds back together to read the word. We use sound buttons underneath each phoneme or sound. You will notice that there is a line underneath the curlicker and the kickinker in the word pack. This is because these letters are working together to make the k sound. When 2 letters are used to make the one sound, this is known as a digraph. We teach the children to sound out words by saying the sounds aloud that they can see. S, a, t. We encourage them to speed up. S, a, t, s, a, t. And then we do a super sweep and blend the sounds back together to read the word. S, a, t, s, a, t, s, a, t, sat. When learning to spell words, we encourage children to segment the sounds they can hear in words. We do this in active ways, clapping, tapping, putting the sounds in our heads, and then counting the sounds on our fingers. We then focus on recalling and recording the graphemes to build the words. This can be done by writing the letters down in sequence or using flashcards or magnetic letters or even typing it using a keyboard. Once we have written the word, we encourage the children to read the word to check that they have spelt it correctly. So, when we think about the word dog, we may show a picture of a dog to the children and then ask them to sound it out. D-o-g, d-o-g, d-o-g. The children will identify that there are 3 sounds in the word. We can talk about which is the first sound, ask them to find the letter that represents the d sound, the middle sound, o, and the final sound, g. Then we would encourage the children, once they've done that, to sound it out, to read it. So d-o-g, dog. On this and the following slide are the lists of words that can be made using the Phase 2 sounds as we progress through the unit. You might find these useful when we're using flashcards at home to practice reading and spelling simple words with your child. Once the children are confident in reading and spelling simple words from Phase 2, we then build up to reading and writing captions using these words. In every phase of letters and sounds, we also teach children a set of words called tricky words. These are words that cannot be decoded or sounded out using the super sweep technique. We teach the children that these words are trying to catch you out, and we play lots of games to help children develop instant recognition of the tricky words. On the next slide, we will model how the Phase 2 tricky words are taught. When teaching the word I, we explain that this uses its letter's name, I, rather than I, and refers to when we're talking about ourselves. For example, I like the colour purple. When teaching the word no and go, we explain to the children that the O is catching you out because it's making an O sound. When teaching the word to, we explain that the O is again catching them out, but this time it's making a oo sound. In the word the, we identify that the t and the h are working together and making a v sound, and that the e is catching them out because it is making a sound. So we sound that out, v, the. You can help your children at home by promoting reading for pleasure. It creates a virtuous circle. As the amount a child reads increases, their attainment improves, and which in turn encourages them to read more. All reading makes a difference, but evidence suggests that reading for pleasure makes the most. So, when reading at home with your reading record, you could practice the phonics sounds and using your flashcards. You could have a go at reading the reading book sent home, but you could also enjoy reading the children's favourite bedtime story, because any reading will help the children. On this slide, it shows a few strategies that might be helpful when reading with your child at home. Take a picture walk through the story before trying to read it. This will help build the children's confidence in being able to decode the words and make sense of what's happening. Look for new focus words in a story and practice those. Encourage the children to use pictures to help them read words. If a child has been focusing on decoding lots of words in a sentence, always go back to the beginning of the sentence and read through it again to make sure they're understanding what they've read. Encourage your child to follow the text using their finger placed below the text. Encourage them to sound out and blend Phase 2 decodable words and prompt them to say each sound in the word from left to right. You could also point out tricky words and read them to your child if they're not already known, as these cannot always be sounded out. Every Thursday we read with the children in school and check how many times they've been reading at home. If you read 4 times a week, your child will earn 1 sticker on their reading card. If they read 5 or more times a week, they will earn 2 stickers. When children reach different milestones, e.g. 5, 10 and onwards, they are then able to cash in their stickers to earn rewards from Mrs. Mason's reading shop. Remember, you can record any reading done at home. This doesn't mean you have to record just a school book, but you could also record your favourite picture books too. We hope that you found this virtual phonics workshop useful. If you have any questions about how to support your child with phonics or what we're doing in school with phonics, then please don't hesitate to speak to a member of the early years team, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.